Yes.
Recording, so that's done. And then we'll get ready when they click on the... Last time they were running late as well.
Yeah.
And then they give me like, you have a minute to do the live Facebook. I'm like, oh, man.
What they're going to do to you again. So do you have to go Facebook Live before recording, or can you go Facebook
No, I
Live
can't.
still?
I have to do it after they connect because it steals the bandwidth. So we have to connect to the network and then go to Facebook Live, and then it takes like a minute for it to run the second page, and then it has to put on this other stuff, and you have to post that within the 30 seconds. I don't know. That's what always stresses me out. It's like, if this was all set up easier, I could just come and talk.
And then, Chris, what are you running for a camera on your computer? Are you just relying on the computer itself?
Yeah, just the iMac.
Yeah, I added the Logitech, the little clip-on that just clips on. I really like it. I don't know if it seems like the picture quality is a little...
I mean, you look good. Are you?
Thanks,
What kind of computer?
My MacBook Pro.
Got it.
But
it's better. It's better than the MacBook Pro camera.
Way better. In fact, I could probably do a little sample if I can remember to pull the right thing.
Go on here, guys. So let them talk. Hold on. What's happening here?
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
Hey, do I need to promote you to panelist? Are you there?
Oh.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. Good deal.
All right, so I'm going to go to live on Facebook right now real quick so I can get that process started. And
then do we need to do a test? Sound test?
Yeah, he can do a test right now if you want to.
Okay. 5, 4.
Is it Josh? Hello?
Josh?
Yeah, what's going on?
Can you hear us well? Can you want to do it?
Yeah, you guys sound fine.
Okay.
All right, test.
Sorry, I'm trying to dial everything in while you guys are talking. So
okay, so give me a second here.
All right, we got about a minute and a half before we're live. Let's see here. The guest with the gray shirt on, I don't think I've heard anything from that guest.
Hey, it's Chris.
There we go. Okay. I think we're good then.
Okay. Hold on. Hold on. I can't do this. It's hard. Okay. All right. Go live. All right, everybody. We should be going live now.
30 seconds.
All right, everybody. We are live here on Facebook with our amazing guest here today, Chris Wark, and we should be connecting right now. So thank you for joining us. Start spreading the news right now. Sending this link to as many people because we want this show to explode on Facebook and go viral on the network. All right, Maureen, here we go. This is going to be the show page here. And then just make sure it's on low. Everybody stay tuned. We're going to talk to Chris Wark.
All right, here we go. 10 seconds. Bringing some sound to you guys.
All right, here we go. And there we go.
Take Back Your Health is brought to you in part by Fivita, premium organic hemp oil for everyday health. Visit us on the web at fivita.com.
Welcome to Take Back Your Health. Your hosts are Dr. Sunil Pai and Maureen Sutton, who will explain the shocking truths about healthcare, prescription drugs, food and supplement industries. They will help guide you to take back your power and feel great again. Now, here's Dr. Sunil Pai and Maureen Sutton.
Welcome, everybody. Today is going to be an amazing show. It's what we're considering our epic show because we have a very, very special guest today, a good friend of ours and thriver. We all were recently at the Food is Medicine Retreat reunion in Cleveland, and we're going to talk to the amazing Chris Wark and how he beat his cancer. This show is really, right now, anybody that has cancer is recently been diagnosed with cancer is a cancer survivor. But we're going to tell everybody with Chris's story and his opportunities and options of what you can do and how he's going to inspire you, and even his programs that can help you, is we're going to make people cancer thrivers, right? And so let's start off with talking with Chris Wark. Chris, thank you for joining us today.
What's up, Sunil?
How you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
All right, so I want to get right into it because the show goes really quickly. Let's start off with, it was 2004 and you were diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. But one thing that a lot of listeners have asked me, a lot of patients who've come in who've followed you, is what was your lifestyle before, obviously the radical change, which we'll talk about, and the whole journey over the last, 14 years of being a thriver. What was your lifestyle before? Standard American diet? You were diagnosed at what, age 26?
Yeah, I was diagnosed at 26. It was actually December 2003. And I was a very typical American man, eating the standard American diet, which is a diet.
Define what that is, so for people don't know what that is.
The standard American diet, also known as the Western diet, which is a diet that's very high in animal protein, high in fat, high in sugar, high in salt, high in oils, and lots of processed food, lots of fast food, lots of junk food, very little fresh food from the earth, fruits and vegetables. And so on an average day, I might have eaten 1 to 2 servings of fruits and vegetables, maybe
as ketchup.
Does the slice of tomato on the double cheeseburger count?
Right.
And French fries.
And then did you have symptoms prior to getting your diagnosis? Did you know something was kind of leading up to, like, I don't feel well, or did it just out of the blue? How did the diagnosis come about?
I didn't feel well. I didn't feel well for maybe 6 months-ish. Wow. Just kind of low energy. I was working a lot. I had just under a lot of stress and pressure that I'd put on myself to build a real estate business, and I was having abdominal pains. Just it would come and go. And,
were you married at the time?
Yeah. I'd been married for about a year.
Okay.
And
so your wife is probably thinking, like, what's wrong? I married this guy and he's always having the stomach problems. Or was she like, was there any kind of concern, or just thinking it was just stress, new business, kind of, new marriage, young couple?
Yeah. I mean, the first year marriage, no problem. But the second year, I started having these abdominal pains, and I didn't really mention them to her for a few months because they would just come and go. It wasn't like a constant pain. But eventually it just started, the pain progressed. It got kind of worse and worse. And it just started to hurt. I was like, man, like something is wrong in there. And so she talked me into going to see the doctor. I'd put it off and got a colonoscopy, and which they never do for 26-year-olds.
Right.
But x-rays didn't show anything, and they'd given me some medication for an ulcer. It didn't help. So they did this, the gastroenterologist said, well, look, we can do a colonoscopy and just have a look. And I was like, okay. So they did that, and they found a golf ball sized tumor in my large intestine, in my descending colon. Ascending, not descending, on the right side. And, I woke up after the procedure, and they're like, look, you got a tumor. And we took a biopsy, and we're going to send it to the lab, and hopefully it's not cancer. And then the next day, or maybe the day after that, I'm a little fuzzy on when they gave me the call, but I think it was the next day, they called and said, hey, you have colon cancer.
And what was going through your mind at that time? I mean, you're 26, I've got abdominal pain, recently married, real estate job and business, and then colon cancer. What?
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, what do you even say when that happens? Like at any age, it's crazy and you can't believe it. But yeah, 26, it was completely out of the blue. I mean, the last thing on my radar was cancer. Never had cancer in my family. Didn't know anybody that had cancer, really. And so it didn't even cross my mind until they found the tumor and then brought it up. So yeah, I mean, I was just totally shocked and didn't know how to process it. It was just kind of like, what is happening to my life?
Right. I think most people, it's a breaks, right? Immediate, like, what is happening?
And then things begin to speed up in your life, things that you're not in control of necessarily.
Right. So usually the train starts like, okay, well, now we got to book surgery, got a new, oncology visit, boom, 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 boom. So
That's right.
You had surgery.
Yeah, they rushed me into surgery. They told me, look, we got to get this thing out of you before it spreads and kills you. And I was like, okay. So I was in surgery. They wanted to get me in surgery like within days, just immediately. But I put them off because it was 2 days before Christmas. And I was like, I really don't want to be in the hospital on Christmas. I mean, that's just, I'm already depressed. Can we not do that?
Right.
So on New Year's Eve, December 30th, I had surgery. They took out a third of my large intestine. They took out the tumor. They saw that it had spread to my lymph nodes. They took out a bunch of lymph nodes, some of which tested positive. So when I woke up, I woke up to bad news.
Right.
They said, we were hoping it was going to be stage 2, but it's stage 3, which means you need 9 to 12 months chemotherapy. You have metastatic colon cancer.
And with the data that they presented to you, I believe it's with that kind of treatment, at that time it was about 53% 5-year survival rate. So that means that those people who undergo the chemotherapy have in 5 years, 53% of them are still alive, and the remaining aren't. So that's not really good odds either way you look at it, right?
No, it's not good odds, and the percentage of people that are still alive aren't necessarily cancer free either.
Sure.
Right, and so. But they didn't even tell me that in the beginning. They just said, look, you got to do chemotherapy. So I was just kind of like, okay, I guess this is my life. I am the cancer patient now. And a couple things happened in the hospital, though, that got me thinking a little differently and kind of started me on a new path, kind of started to entice me into making a very radical decision. But the first thing that happened was, the very first meal that they served me after they had removed a third of my large intestine was a sloppy Joe.
Right.
And, most of us know what a sloppy Joe is, but the funny thing about the sloppy Joe is nobody likes sloppy Joes. They don't serve them in restaurants because nobody likes them. Right? And I mean, the only place you can get one is at like summer camp, or if you're in the military, maybe,
or the county fair,
or maybe the county fair. Definitely in prison.
Yeah,
they definitely serve them in prison. So, and apparently they serve them to cancer patients in the hospital. So yeah, I mean, they put this thing in front of me, and I'm like, what is this? Like,
And you don't know anything about nutrition, but even then, the gut's telling you something just isn't right with this.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, gross. Like, I don't want to eat that right now, but I ate it. I mean, it was the meal they brought me, and I was hungry or whatever. And so that was weird, right? It didn't I didn't have this big epiphany. I just thought, gosh, like, why are they serving such terrible food to sick people?
Right.
Then
Jell-O.
Oh yeah, Jell-O, and I mean, I think there might have been some applesauce or something.
Right.
So the other thing that happened in the hospital was the last day I was there. I'd been there about 4 days, and on the day that they were going to let me go home, the surgeon came in to check on me one more time, and we were just having a conversation about what was going to happen next, and I said, hey, is there any food I need to avoid? Because I was thinking, like, I don't, you just cut my guts open, right? Like, I don't want to eat the wrong thing and screw up the surgery. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just Tabasco sauce, like, is that going to melt the stitches? Like,
interesting thought.
Which
I didn't know.
People might think of, because you don't know. They don't tell you anything. They just give you a sloppy Joe.
Yeah. So I asked him, and his response was, nah, just don't lift anything heavier than a beer.
Wow.
So yeah, so I'm like, really? Okay. So I guess, they're serving terrible food in the hospital to sick people, cancer patients. And my abdominal surgeon, who I figured would probably have some good nutrition advice as it pertains to gut health,
right,
had none for me.
Right.
And so I'm just kind of thinking, like, this is weird. Why is there such a disconnect between health, healthy living, healthy eating, and the healthcare industry? So I go home, and I'm recovering from surgery, and I'm thinking about my life, and I was praying a lot. I'm a Christian, and I was just like reaching out to God, and I was just saying, help, help. I don't know what to do. And I was having this increasing resistance to the idea of chemotherapy. And for me, I couldn't get my couldn't get my mind around, poisoning my way back to health. It just didn't make sense to me. Now, it makes sense to some people, and that's fine. But to me, I was just struggling with it. And so I was just like, God, I don't know what to do. Like, if there's another way besides chemotherapy, just show me, because I don't know what to do. And this doesn't feel right for me.
Right.
And so 2 days later, I got a book. And this book was sent to me from a man who was a friend of my dad's who lived in Alaska. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. So he sends this book. My dad told him I had cancer. It wasn't completely random, but my dad told him I had cancer. So he decides to send me a book. And I start reading this book. It was called God's Way to Ultimate Health. And the guy who wrote it had colon cancer like 30 years prior. Mm-hmm. And he had watched his mother suffer and die through cancer treatment. He'd watched other church members. He was a pastor at one point and had watched church members suffer and die through cancer treatment. And then he got colon cancer and just made a decision like, well, he didn't have any confidence that the treatments would help him because he had seen them fail other people, right? And so he was like, well, I'm not doing that. And he happened to have a friend who was like a health nut or whatever. And his friend said, man, you need to get on a raw food diet. You need to go back to the Garden of Eden, eat raw fruits and vegetables, and you need to drink a ton of carrot juice. So that's what he did. And he got well. His body healed. A year later, no tumor. So I'm reading his story and I'm like, I can't believe this is amazing. I can't believe this book showed up and this guy had colon cancer and he healed it. And like, and the idea of this raw food diet thing, I'd never heard of.
Sure.
And
no one was, in 2004, no one, even the internet wasn't that,
it wasn't.
There was no Dr. Google that people can instantly get like millions of things now, good or bad. Back then it was just like, okay, I got this book.
Yeah. And the weird thing about the internet in 2004, which everyone forgets, is there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was no social media, and there was no video really on the internet. I mean, it wasn't, there was no YouTube, so you couldn't just like look up, every site has videos, like it wasn't like that. The internet was mostly text, okay? Right. And videos were very short little clips. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't find anything helpful on the internet. But anyway, I had this book, and so I had one story, one person's account of healing, and it completely changed my life because all of a sudden, this idea of going back to nature, eating only food, organic, of course, straight from the earth, nothing else, that idea really excited me. I was like, wow, this is crazy, and I kind of love it. Mm-hmm. I love this idea, and I want to see what will happen if I do this. And I believed, part of me just believed that it would be helpful to me, right? And that it was, as I've never eaten this way before, it makes so much sense. And, the guy made the case in his book that we've been poisoning ourselves and polluting our bodies, eating a bunch of man-made processed junk food. And if you go back to a diet that's rich in fruits and vegetables, you really give your body a lot of stuff that it needs to.
Right. So Chris, hold that thought, and we'll be right back after these short messages from our sponsor. And hold on, because the story is just going to start to get really good. Now we got the kind of the crisis. Now we're going to have some solutions, and it's going to be transformational. Hold on, listen to the sponsors. Thank them for sponsoring our show, and we'll be right back after this short break.
All right, you're clear.
All right, everybody, here we're on Facebook Live here with Chris Wark. Wow, what a story so far. I even get kind of just chills hearing it. I've heard of it many times, but every time you tell it, Chris, it's just, it always, I always pick up another aspect of the emotional aspect of just feeling lost. And again, Google was just text. A lot of things back then were just static page websites, like someone just Xeroxed a piece of paper and just, there wasn't a community. I used to have, a lot of patience, even still up until more recently, but before the internet became popular, people would come in with, and they would have support groups, and they write each other letters, and they'd come in and it'd be like, this, with stamps, and they would, so, it's amazing now, luckily, which we'll talk later on in the show, of opportunities of how we can now build community and programs that everybody can have access to who has internet. So it's quite an amazing transformation just in terms of, your journey now can help many, many people around the world.
Yeah, things have changed a lot. But yeah, back then I had very little information to go on, and I went from book to book, basically.
Do you have any like health food stores around you?
One, we had a Whole Foods, mm-hmm. and there was a couple little hole in the wall, locally owned places. And Memphis is not the mecca of healthy living. It is the opposite.
Right.
It is the barbecue and beer capital of the South.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, the health and wellness community basically was non-existent in Memphis. And so anyway, to pick up where I left off, I got this book. I'm like, raw
Wait.
food.
We'll wait till the story comes back on the
Facebook
radio.
Live.
We're on the Facebook right now. So any shout outs you want to give to anybody, just go ahead and shout out Theo. Hey, how you doing out there? I know you're show. So we'll let you come in and talk a little bit later.
No. Nobody wants to hear from me, but I did want to say that I did throw a link on to the Facebook Live feed about GI docs not having any nutritional training. And that's a February 2018 publication. Still today.
Still no
today.
training.
So I think they might be still serving those sloppy joes in Memphis then. Believe it or not.
No doubt.
So
I
we want
remember when I was in the hospital and I told them that I was vegan. I was in for 4 days for testing, and they came back and they said the dietitian doesn't know what a vegan is. I said, fire your dietitian.
What?
Yeah. This is recent, right? So
It's 2017 when that happened, right?
Right.
All right, coming back in 20 seconds.
Years ago, yeah, but still. So what they ended up giving me was a big giant bowl of steaming broccoli.
And then she said she needed more food. Then they gave her a big bowl of cubed cheddar cheese.
cube cheddar cheese.
God, that was it.
You can't eat it.
Yes. Here's a block of Velveeta.
You are tuned in to Take Back Your Health. To reach our program today, call 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or by email to radio@sanjevani.net. That's radio@sanjevani.net. Now, let's return to Take Back Your Health.
Wow, what a story so far. So Chris is 26-year-old, married, real estate, abdominal pain for a couple of months. Eventually ended up getting reviewed, tried some things, didn't work. Eventually getting a colonoscopy, diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. They ended up going in, doing surgery, finding out that it was actually mets to the lymph nodes. Then they recommended chemotherapy. Again, 5-year survival rate 53%, not very good either way. And so he decided to take another look at what else he could do. Luckily, intervention was coming by. He was praying a lot, and a book came to him. And you were talking about this book. So start off where you left off. You got this book, and it was about someone who healed himself with cancer, eating, basically plant-based diet.
Yep. Plant-based diet, 80% raw, and juicing carrots every day.
Right.
About 64 ounces of carrot juice every day. So I read this book, and I'm like, that's it. I'm going to do this. Like, I love this idea. I'm going to do it and see what happens. Well, little did I know, most of the people around me didn't like that idea. I was the only one who liked it. My mom was actually cool with it. She'd been a health nut for a long time too. But everyone else around me, including my wife, who I love dearly, didn't understand. And they thought I was crazy, and they thought I was going to die. And they thought I was making a huge mistake. And so they were all trying to talk me out of it. And this was a pressure I was not expecting at all. And that was really, really difficult, right? It's really difficult when everyone who you think will support you kind of withdraws their support if you make a choice they don't like. So I realized I might have to do this alone. And that was tough, but I'm an only child, and I'm used to being alone. And so I was like, well, it's okay. I'll do it alone. And if everybody thinks I'm insane, I'll just do it. And I'll just have to prove them wrong.
So did you feel kind of ostracized in a way that, people have maybe, again, because what we find out is most people that have been diagnosed with cancer, if they're trying anything alternative, eating, just changing their diet, people just run. It's like, why not chemotherapy?
They run, or they eat healthy. They run, or they're really trying to shoot them down.
Right.
They really try to shoot them down and tell them like, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that alternative, that's just quackery. Stuff like that. I mean,
what's wrong with sloppy joes? Yeah,
it's like, it's not, your diet doesn't have anything to do with it. It's genetic,
right?
Or they'll say like, oh, it's just bad luck,
right?
And what we know is that cancer is not bad luck. It's 90-ish% of cancers are caused by our diet and lifestyle and environment,
right?
And less than 5% are caused by genetics.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't know that back then. So I had no knowledge, right? I had one book. And I felt like it was an answer to prayer. So I was like, I'm doing this. And there was so much pressure by my family and that to go see the oncologist that I agreed reluctantly. And I go to the oncologist clinic, and we're in there, and I'm looking around, and it's just full of old people. And I'm 26.
Right.
And everyone in there is 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
And looking not so good.
Yeah, and not looking well. But of course, the really sick patients, they wheel them in the back.
Right.
Chemo treatments. They don't bring them in the front door because they don't want you to see how bad they are.
Right.
But anyway, I'm even having said that, I'm looking around going, man, I just don't belong here. So I'm sitting on the couch. My wife's next to me. We're waiting to go back and see the doctor. And the TV's on. And and on one of the morning shows, out comes Jack LaLanne. And so Jack LaLanne comes out, and he's like, starts going off about nutrition, and he's just on a tear. And he's like, this is why we're all so sick, because we're eating a bunch of man-made processed junk food, and we need to get back to a diet of fruits and vegetables and juicing and raw foods. And if man made it, don't eat it. And I was just like, man, I can't believe this is on the TV right now in the waiting room of the oncology clinic. By the way, this would never happen today, because now in the clinics, they have their own closed circuit TV that just broadcasts messages that they want you to see about their treatments and their therapies and crap like that.
Right.
So they're not going to take any chance that you're going to see something like they don't want you to see on the TV in there.
Right. It was like divine intervention.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was what I call a mini miracle, right?
Right.
So I even said to my wife, I'm like, can you believe this is on right now? And she was like, yeah, it's pretty weird. So we go back, we see the oncologist. He was very cold. He just gave me the standard boilerplate, pitch, which he told me, he said, look, you're young adult with colon cancer. It's very aggressive in young adults. You have about a 60% chance of living 5 years, which was exaggerated. I found out later. 60% is about what all cancer patients have if you lump them in one big group. Every cancer patient ever, if you lump them together and average it out, it's about 60% of them live 5 years. But my odds of survival were actually worse. He didn't tell me that. But even though he said 60% to make it sound better, I still thought, man, that's a little too close to 50-50, which is like a coin toss, which makes me think, you're not inspiring much confidence in the therapy. So we just had this conversation. I didn't challenge the guy. We didn't get into any of that. But I said, what about the raw food diet? And he said, no, you can't do that. It'll fight the chemo. Which was weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing to say. And at the time, I didn't ask him why he said that, but I figured it out later. Raw food diet is a very aggressive detoxification diet, and patients lose a lot of weight, which is usually a very good thing. But you also lose weight when you get chemotherapy, and so they don't want you to lose too much weight. So they tell them to eat burgers and milkshakes and ice cream and pizza, these terrible high-calorie junk foods, so they'll maintain their weight so they won't lose too much weight. They tell them to eat foods that actually feed cancer. Right. And beyond that, there used to be an idea, which is still around, called that cancer patients need to eat a neutropenic diet, which is a diet that's all cooked and don't eat anything raw, because the bacteria on an apple might cause a problem in your body. Why would it do that? Because chemotherapy has destroyed your immune system.
Right. And for those people who want to know more about food deception, and go listen back to the past archives, they have 2 episodes. We talk about foodborne illness. 1 in 4 people will get foodborne illness. And the number 3 cause of illness in the hospital now is coming from foodborne illnesses within the hospital now. So this is very common. So we're like, we're worried about eating an organic apple, but we also have to be more worried about the chicken, the eggs, the beef, and the dairy, and everything else in the sloppy Joe that they were giving. So go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's just... that's fascinating too, that how much foodborne illness is coming from hospital food.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're, I asked him about that. He said, the raw food diet would fight the chemo. And then I said, well, what about alternative therapies? And he said, no, you can't, there are none. If you don't do chemotherapy, you're insane.
Right.
And from that moment, his demeanor really shifted, from sort of pleasant, matter-of-fact doctor demeanor to condescending, sort of arrogant, intimidating, bullyish doctor. And, you know, he was basically saying, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, you're going to die, and you don't have any other options. And I pretty much just kind of like went into the deer in the headlights thing, where he was just talking at me and I don't know what he was saying, and everything was getting kind of blurry, and the fear took over, right? And that's what they do. They often use fear to manipulate and motivate people to say yes to treatment, right? Because what's the biggest motivator of all? The fear of death, right? So if you can convince someone they're going to die if they don't do what you say, well, they're probably going to do what you say.
And then when did you get to the point where you felt like with your decision that it was like, I'm on the right path? Because I'm sure in the beginning, it's like, there's always self-doubt. Like, am I the only person who's thinking this? And, you know, I'm just, you know, and everybody's like, oh, give him some time and he'll change his mind. And also, when was that aha moment? Like, you know, I'm onto something because I'm actually feeling better, or I actually just know between me and God or whatever, that, you know, this is the path that I've chosen. I've made the decision that was right for me.
Well, so that's a great question. So like I'd been on the raw food diet and I've been juicing for a week when I saw the doctor, because I didn't think about it. I mean, I jumped on it immediately. I immediately was like, where do I get a juicer, you know? And so I'd been doing it for a week and I was actually feeling pretty good. And I walked into the clinic confident, you know, feeling good and confident and kind of, you know, optimistic about healing my body and getting well. And then after that meeting, I mean, I walked out of that meeting with the doctor. I mean, it's like I'd been hypnotized. I went straight to the desk to make an appointment to get a port put in to start chemotherapy, you know, in like a month or whatever. And then we walked out to my wife's car and just sat in the car and cried. Right. You know, basically he had shattered all of my hope in that meeting. And the thing that was fortunate, and I was blessed to have this timeline, is that, you know, I had time before I had to start chemo because I was still recovering from surgery. And so during those next several weeks, I just kept doing what I was doing. I kept juicing. I kept eating raw fruits and vegetables. Like I just kept reading and researching and learning, praying. And when the day came to go get the port put in, I woke up and I was like, I'm not doing it. And so I thought that'd be the end of it. I thought maybe if I just didn't show up, they'd leave me alone.
No, they send certified letters. They send people, social workers. They send everybody to come knock on your door. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so silly little naive Chris, thinking they'd leave me alone.
So guilty.
And, but they did. They kept calling the house. They did send a certified letter. After the certified letter, they left me alone. But there was still a lot of tension in the family because everyone thought I was making a huge mistake. And, you know, people were telling me, you're stubborn. You're just being stubborn. And, you know, I know somebody that tried alternative therapies and they died. Right. So, you know, I'm just like,
so hold this thought. What we'll do is after this short commercial break, we're going to get into the transformation of where Chris went in crisis to solution mode and how that eventually built up what he has now today is known as Square One program. We'll talk about the details right after the short messages from our sponsors.
You're clear.
All right, everybody on Facebook Live. This is, wow, what a great story so far. What a great, you're such an inspiration. I really appreciate your honesty and openness. Even though you probably told the story so many times, there's so many new listeners here around the world. We have almost every country on the map represented, 52,000 listeners as our last show stats of looking at, watching and listening to the show. So, and I appreciate you because now we're going to expose the audience of how they can take back their health with the inspiration and motivation and lifestyle changes and natural therapies that we'll get to in the next two segments. So I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor at purebetaglucan.com. Go to purebetaglucan.com and get yourself some of the most important, strongest, most natural, clinically effective beta-glucan, a market that Chris talks about all the time. Bosmeric also, bosmeric.com. And for those who want to read a little bit more about what we're talking about today, Chris will be having a book coming out called Chris Beat Cancer. He'll probably announce that later on. But also, an Inflammation Nation is a good place to start on what to do in finding an integrative doctor and taking the 10 steps. If you do this, you do the Square One program, follow what Chris has to do, what he did, and be inspired. Your outcomes are great, and we're going to be talking about other programs that are all going to be coming available that will be all evidence-based on how you can improve your outcome.
Yeah, we have people listening from New Zealand right now, Maine, Texas, all over the place. So we really thank you so much for joining us and all of your wonderful comments, and everyone's here to help one another. So it's great to be part of this community.
Theo, any words of wisdom?
Just do square one.
Quick, be wise.
Be wise.
Say something wise.
Do something smart.
All right, everybody on Facebook, please share this video, share this link right now, tag other people in there, share it. Go to sanjevani.net, SANJEVANI.net. Sign up for the Square One program, which we're going to talk about. Sign up for the newsletter. We have special events and programs, and we'll also keep you on the newsletter of which guests we will have every week on this show. And you can also watch the video link. So we have it on our YouTube channel, and we also have it available so the people who want to watch these interviews, who are listening or can't listen on Facebook Live, please do sign up for that at Sanjevani, SANJEVANI.net.
All right, coming back.
Maureen, you need to turn up your voice or speak a little louder, okay?
Okay.
You are tuned in to Take Back Your Health. To reach our program today, call 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or by email to radio@sanjevani.net. That's radio@sanjevani.net. Now, let's return to Take Back Your Health.
We're back with Chris Wark here talking about how he beat his cancer. Now, Chris, after this decision to say, I don't want to do chemotherapy, I'm doing, my lifestyle changes. I'm having more, having strong faith, community support. What led you from then to now, 14 years later? Congratulations, by the way. Congratulations to everybody who's thriving out there, who beat their cancer. This is a shout out to everyone. It's an inspiration because more people need this inspiration. What led you? Because what we want to talk about now is what have you done? Because you've become kind of this, I consider this thriver, as we're calling the Food is Medicine Thrivers, and a superstar. And you developed a program called Square One. So tell the listeners a little bit about the Square One program.
Yeah. Before I do that, I do want to finish the story because everybody's probably like, well, then what? So,
It's
where I left off was I decided to not show up for chemotherapy and just to take control of my life. And so through a process of reading and researching and just going from book to book to book, I kept finding validation in what I was doing. Every resource I found, and there weren't very many in 2004, but every resource I found in 2004 was telling me the same things. They were telling me raw foods and juicing, right? A raw organic diet, eliminate all animal protein, all processed food, and all junk food, of course, and eat raw fruits and vegetables, and juice carrots, and also juice other veggies too. And so the nice thing was, even though I was alone, I had no support. There were no support groups. There was no Facebook, nothing. It was just Chris trying to live. The little bit of information I had was all congruent. And so this is really important, right? Because I kept getting confirmation that I was doing the right thing. And yeah, there were differences of opinion here and there, but they were minor things, right? The major things sort of all were in agreement. And the major principles, I should say. So I stuck with that, and I found a local naturopath. I found a local integrative oncologist who's now deceased because he was an older guy. But and I slowly built a little support system around myself. So for anybody watching or listening that you feel alone, you feel like you don't have support, support will come to you. You will find it, but you've got to step out into the unknown, right? You got to step out in faith. You got to step out into the unknown. And when you do, that's when miracles happen. And so that's what happened for me. It's what I see happening for people all the time. But as soon as I stepped out, the right people came into my life and supported me. And then the people around me who thought I was crazy eventually started to come around as well. And my wife, really after that appointment with the oncologist, and she heard the way he talked to me, and she's the one who reminded me that he said the raw food diet would fight the chemo, because I had forgotten he said it. And she was like, yeah, it was weird when he said that, wasn't it? And I was like, oh, he did say that. That was weird. So I created a massive action plan for myself to live, because the way I looked at my disease is I had an epiphany, and the epiphany was the way I'm living is killing me.
Right.
And I can't just take a supplement to fix that, right? I can't take an herb or a magic lotion or potion to fix that. If the way I'm living is killing me, I've got to turn my whole life upside down. I've got to change my whole life. I've got to take massive action. So it wasn't just the diet. I, removed all the toxic stuff from my house. I started thinking about my emotions and my thought life and my spiritual life and my stress, right? I started exercising. So I started systematically just sort of identifying all of these little areas of my life that could be contributing to disease and started changing them all. And so I removed health-destroying habits with health-promoting habits. Mm-hmm. And just day by day, right? I just gave my fears to God every day and trusted him in the process. And then as I continued down the path and got blood work monthly and CT scans every 6 months, all of a sudden it was like months were going by and then years had gone by. And then all of a sudden it was 5 years. And I was like, man, I'm alive. It's 5 years. I have no cancer.
Right. And
by that time, my original oncologist had retired and I'd been sort of passed to another guy and met him for the first time. And he said, yeah, it looks like you're in the clear. And so at that point, I was like, wow, okay, well, maybe I should tell my story or something, or write a book or start a blog or something. And so I thought about that for like a year. And then in 2010, I started a blog called Chris Beat Cancer. And I just thought, maybe there's some people out there that I can help, that I can just share my story with and encourage them and just explain what I did. Because there's got to be people that are looking for this. I mean, I was looking for it and I couldn't really find anybody. And little did I know that it would completely take over my life, that it would just grow into be something that I could never imagine in terms of the scope and the influence and the reach that I would be able to have around the world. And now millions of people come to my website every year. It's just crazy. But that created a new problem, which was I get tons of messages from people saying, Chris, I love your site. I love that you interview other people who've healed cancer and doctors and experts. Obviously, I've interviewed you, Dr. Pai. And but I'm just confused. There's too much information now, right? So back in 2004, there was no information. I had a couple of books, and in a way, that was a blessing in disguise. Now there's a million websites, right? Not a million, but too many websites. They're all talking about natural healing and natural therapies for cancer and anti-cancer diets, but there's some very vastly differing opinions and strategies. And people who are Googling now for answers they're so confused. Yes. They just don't know what to do or where to start. And so I was getting these messages constantly, help, like, what do I do? Where do I start? So after really 5 years, 6 years, blogging and coaching people one-on-one and doing as much as I could, I was like, all right, this is crazy. I've got to do something. Like, I kind of had a bottleneck in my own life, or I can't, too many people want to talk to me. I can't talk to everybody. This is like, I was just going bananas. So I created a course called Square One. And Square One is basically me, what I would teach someone if I talked to them if we did 10 coaching calls. Right? Like everything I could possibly tell you that you need to know that you can do and it change in your life. Like here it is, right? In an organized course. And so that's how Square One was born. And I sort of introduced it to the world in 2016. And then it really took off last year. And we were able to share it with just thousands of people. And we have this amazing private support group. And the crazy thing is, like, I want to read you a couple testimonials from our private support group for people that are in the program. But like, this was, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. So Rose said, hello all, I've done it. It's Hodgkin's lymphoma diagnosis, June of 2017, going astray from toxic allopathic treatment, following Square One and other holistic treatment. And much to everyone's surprise, I'm now officially in remission.
Yay!
Yes.
Right? So I love the stories. I like to say that we recommend Square One at House of Sanjevani because it's something that people just need to. I can watch it. In fact, the first module I think you give is for free. And so if they go to sanjevani.net, you can look at. There's a whole link there. On sanjevani.net to join the Square One. Also on the show page, if you are listening to this on the archive or listening to the show, it says Square One by Chris Wark. All the information is there. Click on there, and you can hear wonderful testimonies. Give us another one. Do you have another one?
Yeah, go watch the first module for free. I mean, you'll just see how not to say, I know it sounds like I'm boasting, but it's such a great program. I mean, I spent so much time and energy creating this to make it simple and straightforward and actionable, and just not only to teach you what you can do to change your life, but then show you how to do it. So, these are the same principles. It's not just what I did. These are the same principles that everyone I know who has healed cancer naturally, either without treatment or alongside treatment or when treatment failed. Okay. And really the first one and the third one, especially, this is what they did, right? So it's not a bunch of sort of wild goose chase, miracle cure stuff, right? It's the fundamental things that you need to change in your life. The plant-based diet is a huge component. Juicing's a big component, right? Exercise and rest, stress reduction, supplementation. You mentioned beta-glucans earlier.
Right.
I mean, just that's such an important supplement. So is vitamin D3. So is curcumin, which you've got a wonderful curcumin product that I like a lot called Bosmeric. And I talk about that in the program too. And there's a lot to it.
Spiritual support.
Yes, there's a lot to it, which again can sound overwhelming, but I just present it in a way that people, it really resonates with people and helps them understand they can do it, right? I'm not special. I'm not superhuman. I'm just a regular dude.
And what I really appreciate about your whole story, Chris, and even your Square One program is that, as an integrative physician, we're evidence-based, is that we always present all these lifestyle changes with evidence. And this is what the evidence shows you. Like, you need to eat this way, you need to have stress reduction, you need to have more faith or spirituality, epigenetic changes, diet, lifestyle, environment, belief system, right? It all needs to be in the positive. And you've lived that, where you actually, through trial and error, have come through the evidence-based motion and proven that model. So I really enjoy the aspect when we recommend people who are listening right now, if you know someone, go get the Square One program, and then you can learn, like, these are the lifestyle changes, and then follow that along with what we recommend here, or an integrative medicine physician to follow labs, follow scans, and you can have great outcomes.
Well, and it's important to note too that it isn't either or, right? All the principles that I talk about in the Square One program are applicable to any cancer patient, whether they're doing conventional treatment or not. Like, so the point is, like, these things will only help you. They will not hurt you. And so it's not like, oh, don't do that, only do this. Like, everyone has to make their own decisions in life as to which treatments they feel strongly about. And I do encourage people to make sure they understand what they're getting into when they say yes to conventional treatment, because there are a lot of risks of harm, and a lot of patients they're not informed, and they don't know until it's too late what kind of damage can be done to the body. So, I'm very critical of the industry for those reasons, that they don't tell patients what they're getting into. But having said that, like, this program's for anyone that just wants to do everything they can do, right? You can work with the doctor, work with a professional, but also take control of your life and your health. I've talked to tons of cancer patients, more than I could ever count, and they all tell me the same things. They all say, I was under a ton of stress before I was diagnosed,
right,
and I haven't been taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And usually there are some very specific traumatic events leading up to their diagnosis: a divorce, death of a loved one, loss of a business, lawsuit, things like that. These very, very traumatic, stressful events that end up sort of being what I call the cancer trigger, right? It was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, hold that thought. And so when we come back after this short break, we'll finish up, because we want to give now solutions. We want to talk about the Square One program. We want to talk about how do you increase your immune system, how do you lower inflammation, and how do you get community support. We'll be right back after these short messages.
Clear.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching on Facebook Live. This has been a great journey and interview. Thank you very much, Chris, for spending the time with us today. We have a little bit more to talk about, but time goes by so fast when we're doing these programs. Even Theo, we haven't heard from Theo at all. So he's
Theo.
Who cares? I'm just a science geek.
So maybe in the last section, we want to just talk about, really want to focus on, driving people to go Square One, because I really truly believe, a lot of patients, thank you very much, Chris, who've come see me, they use that program as a base foundation of their support. And then it's like, okay, I need labs, I need this. What else can we do with my diet? How do I help? Maureen will help with the yoga, the meditation, the exercise, the nutrition, cooking classes, all that stuff. And we will look at, what other things can we give clinically? And again, like what you talked about, it's not just oh, don't do this or do this. It's like whatever you're doing, you have to improve your outcome, and you have to change your whole terrain of what led you to get cancer in the first place. And again, all the epigenetic factors, diet, lifestyle, environment, belief system, and everything that you talk about in your program, everything we talk about in my book, and Inflammation Nation, is key. Because if they follow those steps, it's amazing how many success stories and testimonials that you actually will get.
Yeah, I mean, the terrain is key. You've got to change your internal terrain and make your body a place where cancer cannot thrive, make it inhospitable to cancer. And that was my goal, right? That was my intention. And that's really what the Square One program is all about too.
Yeah, and then guys, in the next 9 minutes, I would love to slug for all of the listeners and understand what integrative was, because that didn't even exist, Chris, on your diagnosis. That wasn't even a term. I didn't even
all right, coming back.
You are tuned in to Take Back Your Health. To reach our program today, call 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792.
All right.
Or by email to radio@sanjevani.net.
I almost bit it too.
At SANJEVANI.net. Now, let's return to Take Back Your Health.
Wow, it's been such an inspirational show being with Chris Wark here today from Crispy Cancer. And we were talking about the Square One program. Everybody go to sanjevani.net, SANJEVANI.net, and you can learn more about the Square One. Click on there, or if you're listening in the archive, go to the show link at the bottom right side of your screen. Yeah, so we were talking about, back then, there wasn't such thing as integrative medicine. I was one of the first integrative formally trained physicians in 2000 to 2002. But even then, most patients didn't even understand or know about it. Now it's great because we have a program, you have an online program that people anywhere around the world can get. We do online, we do Zoom consults, health coaching online. So it's a great merge because now we have technology that can access anybody from Memphis to to somewhere in Namibia. And so it's great that I don't even know if there's a country like that, but anyways, there's it's great because it changes outcomes now by having support and community. And what I want to really express in the Square One program, aside of just the information that's super important, it's also the community. And one of the things that we've done is Chris was nice enough to join us last year in Costa Rica. We did a food as medicine retreat for cancer patients. It was very, very successful. We all enjoyed it. And we had a little reunion just recently as we had our last week's show with some of the people. And there you go, the food is medicine. You can see his shirt if you can't see
representing right here.
Representing there in Cleveland. And, that's important because a lot of people, what I find, we're living in Mexico. We get people from all over driving 3, 4, 5 hours, and they can be in some places where there's just not really many community members. Or once they have the C word, everybody runs. And so it's joining that community and getting that support is so utmost important aside of the diet, lifestyle, environment, and belief system. So tell us a little bit now, Theo is on the line here and he's in the house as well. We're looking at doing a program. We did an episode where we're talking about doing a 12-week program to actually demonstrate evidence-based wise these lifestyle changes that you mentioned and you actually describe in the Square One program. And so Theo, if you want to just give a 30-second shout out to that program and what that will be coming, and then Chris eventually in the future will help catalyze that, and then we will demonstrate to the world why Crispy Cancer is a great thing and how we can then work with integrative docs to do even more.
Yes. So the reason the Square One is so amazing is because rather than protesting a broken system, Chris chose to create a solution. And that's how we'll evolve Western medicine in a lightning fast amount of time. And so I just posted you guys in the Facebook Live and in the comments a link. There's 17-year lag in translational. So if it's in a study, 17 years later, it's making it into practice. And we have the power to smash that together. And so Dr. Pai and I have already been working on tracking patients and working in a different environment. And so again, Square One participants are the most educated of all the people who have a diagnosis because you've given them the foundation. And so now we have the opportunity to invite a small handful to actually run through a 12-week with a doctor in the middle and sort of looking at what does it look like when we have that bridge between conventional and these what are really actually integrative evidence-based solutions. But there's a disconnect. So we want to create the connection And so I don't know if that was 30 seconds.
We can show that through laboratory testing. We can look at inflammatory markers, food sensitivities, microbiome, and fix all those parameters diagnostically, scientifically, and show within 12 weeks how your body, just within even a week of starting changing your diet, saying, I'm feeling better. We know 4 days just with the microbiome. And so this is something that, with your help, we're going to actually help change, I think, how we approach oncology care. And as you mentioned, everybody should be doing something before they get treatment, whether they get treatment or not. That's their choice, but they still have to be healthy at the end of the day.
Yeah. And it's amazing how quickly things can turn around in the body when you take massive action and you change what you're putting into it, right? Because you're made out of what you eat.
Right.
You are what you ate.
Yeah.
And food has the power to promote health and healing in the body. It also has the power to promote disease and dysfunction in the body. And, I got so excited in 2004, like I said, I had a handful of books and they didn't even really have any science,
right,
in them. It was all just claims, right? They were making claims about the power of food to heal based on, some of them were written by practitioners and people like that, but there was barely any nutritional science cited in any of these books, but I believed that they were telling the truth, and because it just resonated with me. And so, but 5 years later, almost 7 years later, when I started the blog, I started digging around on the internet because I was sharing my story and I was making claims, and I realized, well, wait a second, what if I'm wrong? So then I started digging into research science and nutritional science, and I found all this amazing stuff that validated the power of fruits and vegetables, to all these amazing compounds in cruciferous vegetables and garlic and onions and leeks, in berries and pomegranates. It's too much to list in the next couple minutes, but all these amazing compounds in fruits and vegetables that are anti-cancer compounds. And on the flip side, all of these compounds and toxins and pollutants that we find in a lot of animal foods and especially processed foods that are disease promoters and cancer promoters. And so, I just went down the rabbit hole so deep. And the deeper I went, the more excited I got, because it's like, well, the evidence is here. We have it. We know that nutrition is powerful, and it can be the difference between life and death, between survival, between preventing a recurrence or not, and between getting cancer or not. And so that became my passion, was to share that information with the world and help people get well. And so anyway, created the Square One program. And now, almost every week we're getting a testimonial from somebody in the program whose tumors are shrinking, their blood markers are improving, right? Or no signs of cancer, their scans are clear. Like today, this is one today. This one is especially great because it's pancreatic cancer. And this guy, Mateo, said, I'm still clear from my CT scan this past Friday, got Whipple surgery for pancreatic cancer, November 2017. I've been on Square One, working with another integrative practitioner as well. I urge you to do all as Chris teaches, trust in the Lord, forgive yourself or those you may be holding grudges towards, and radically change your diet and lifestyle. So
I think you say, little action, little outcomes, massive action, massive outcomes, right?
Yeah, minimal action produces minimal results.
Right, exactly.
Massive action produces massive results. And so that is one of my biggest messages to cancer patients or to anyone who's struggling with chronic disease. It's like, hey, you got to take some big action, right? If you want to change, you can't just cut back a little or try to take a little supplement or multivitamin. It's not going to help you. It's not enough. And really taking a step back and looking at the totality of your life. That's the foundation of holistic health and holistic medicine, is looking at the whole body, looking at the big picture, looking at the person's life, right? And are you living in a way that's promoting health or disease?
That's just perfect. So I want to end there today. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining us. Thank you, Theo, for joining us. Everybody go to aninflammationnation.com if you want to get a copy of the book. Go to sanjevani.net, sanjevani.net. Hit the link on Square One. Join Square One now, or if you're listening to the archive, it's on the show links there. Also, at the bottom of this video, there'll be links. Also, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor on the Glucan 300. Go to purebetaglucan.com and also 5vita.com for their support in this program. And until next week, everybody, best of health.
Thank you for joining us.
All right, clear.
All right, everybody, we're on Facebook Live. We're going to hang out for a little bit longer because we got Chris here. Chris is in the house, everybody, and obviously there's more people sometimes that he has on Facebook than maybe the president watching. So it was good. We're having good information. We're making everybody healthy again. So
yeah, if I can get Trump to tweet about me, man, that would be huge.
I don't know, because you don't eat fried chicken, so you might have to have a vegan buck of chicken or something.
I know he's a big fan of McDonald's. So.
Yes. So, anyways,
so where was that? Okay, I was talking about the holistic health, right, and holistic medicine, and looking at the whole body. And it's not just diet; it's your lifestyle, it's your attitude, it's your emotions, it's your stress, and your spiritual life. It's all those things. And I'm so excited about what you're doing. And, I get questions periodically. People will say, well, what's the success rate of your program? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even a scientist. I'm nothing. I'm just a dude who got well and then got obsessed with studying other people who'd healed cancer and put together a program that just outlines what we all did. So it's been a dream of mine to have some way to, align with physicians and researchers and track patient data and really find out like how well is this working? What types of cancer does it work best for? And all those kind of things. And so the great news is we're getting testimonials from all types and stages of cancer. So that's great because we know the body is, if you address the whole body, you're empowering it to heal. And so I don't get intimidated by different types of cancer or like, oh, mine's really rare or whatever. It's like, what? We just need to serve your body, right? We need to feed your body, serve your body, and trust that it can heal if given the proper nutrients and care.
Right. And
so, I'm excited that we can hopefully put something together that will allow patients to not only get an MD supervision and the right type of diagnostic testing and monitoring testing, things that, I can't do. I'm not a physician. Like I can't do those things.
Right.
And then also come out at the end of it at some point in time, whether it's a year or a few years, and say, hey, look what we have found that people can do to help themselves heal and survive. Like these methods work.
And one of the things that we're really excited about this is since we're evidence-based is like Theo said, we don't want to wait 17 years before something that we are doing gets into practice. And now with social media and now with, outreach and all these other things and even nonprofit help and organizations and data, even some people that we know who write and publish. And also if we want to accelerate that time. And if we do this correctly, then, everybody's outcome, because what we don't want right now is everybody just either run to conventional and like you, unfortunately, not give you all the information or what the side effects may be. Not that we're against conventional medicines, that we just want to get more targeted therapies, less side effects, right? And I'll make sure that people are fully consented and understanding what they're going to go through. Likewise, when people jump and I went to Mexico, I went to some alternative clinic out of the country, spending God's ops of money, it's like, well, where's the outcome of that also? So our goal is that if we show, like what you said, these are the fundamentals, regardless of whether you cross the border or you stay here or you do something alternative or go to, a big cancer hospital, if you don't change the fundamentals, then your outcomes is not going to be as good as you want. And so what I like is that once we get this information, we're able to show and demonstrate, which we've already done individually. You have thousands of testimonials. We have that in our clinic. But we do it formally. We track it. We publish it. Then eventually my goal is that we then teach other physicians how to approach this way and how to help the patient. And rather than coming in, like you said, adversarial and then almost, in a boxing match, like my way or the highway, it's like, how can we help you get better? And that whole discussion is just a different discussion. I think that's what's needed. And that's how we can help transform healthcare. It's actually really caring about people and actually having them heal as well.
And there are so many diet and lifestyle practices that improve cancer treatment, improve conventional treatment, sensitize cancer to treatments, reduce the side effects. I mean, even just exercise reduces the side effects of treatment. But a lot of cancer patients aren't even being told that by their doctor. They need to be exercising at least 30 minutes a day, brisk walking, up to an hour. So things like that, it's like, man, there's some very simple things you can do, but just giving people a very organized, systematic approach to approach each day with, right? Just say, listen, one day at a time, these are the things we need to accomplish today to support health and healing in your body. You can do it. And, giving them the information, the motivation, the inspiration, right? And the action plan. That's what I live for. And I know you all do as well. So it's exciting and just feels so good to be aligned with people that agree, right? People that have the same vision, because there's a lot of people in our space and in our industry that are more motivated just by, promoting a fad or promoting, themselves, or just maintaining.
Keto diet. Sorry, I had this cough. It was
right,
weird.
or just maintaining the status quo.
Yeah,
right?
and it's unfortunate because when we entered this space, we all thought, we're all going to be on the same side because we all wanted to defeat cancer. We want to bring it better way with this less side effects, maybe less non-toxic therapies. But people have to be, as an integrative doctor, we're on both sides of the camp. Like, we have to look at each patient, their stage of the disease, what they're willing to change or not change, and work with that decision. But always, whatever that decision is, still improve that even more, right? And I've always appreciated your honesty of understanding, because a lot of people in this space now can have blown it up. They've made lots of money. They sell products. But when we look at the products, even evidence-based wise, we can say that study showed that it didn't even work. Why are they doing this? And so then it kind of harms the whole industry. We want the holistic health integrative industry to be true. At the end of the day, that medicine should be the best medicine. It shouldn't be something on the side, and it shouldn't get labeled just like regular supplements or alternative therapies. We want it to go mainstream, which is good medicine at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right. I've seen a lot of things that were disturbing to me, being around other influencers and being in the health and wellness space now for 8 years since I started the blog. And it just kind of brings me back to the really simple things that I can do to help people. And I think there's two main motivations for anybody out there watching. If you're paying attention to other influencers and wellness experts and even doctors, there's two motivations, right? They're either there to serve or they're there to sell. And the quicker you can figure out which one of those motivations drives them, the better, especially if they're just there to sell you something. And so that's really important, right? It's really important. You're either here to serve or you're here to sell. And of course, there's nothing wrong with selling. Everybody's got to keep the lights on and pay the bills, and that's fine. But if that's your big motivation, then you stop caring about people, and you make decisions based on money. And money decisions are never good decisions.
Yeah, we agree. We see so many people, come into our office and they'd be like, oh, I watched this video or I looked this on the internet, and then they come in and they basically, spent all their money, which they should have been getting real food as medicine, on things that we now know that don't work or maybe potentially harmful or are harmful. And then they're already, 3 steps behind. And we should be moving 2 steps forward every step. And so it's hard because, a lot of people think like, well, why would they tell me this? They're in your space. They're in this natural space or this holistic space. But again, just because a health food store sells something doesn't also mean that it's healthy. They're a retailer. Same thing on online. These are retailers. And I always have the first criteria. Do they have a clinic, someone who's saying they're a health expert? And do they see patients still? And are they treating them and are they having successes? Because everybody can be a health expert and just basically sell millions of dollars online.
That's right.
I don't think that's necessarily a health expert. I think that's an online expert marketer. And
right.
We want to do, but there's a growth where you can say, can we provide natural things that are helpful, like your information that you do in Square One, or products like the Bosmeric or the beta glucan that have evidence to support? Absolutely. But the industry doesn't want to do that for some reason. They just want to take the quick out and sell something. And I think at the end of the day, it's hard because we see in our clinic that collateral damage of people like, I've done this, and they're not doing better. Why? It's like because the fundamentals still hasn't been addressed.
Yep. The fundamental stuff, the foundational stuff, people tend to have a quick fix mentality because we've been conditioned that way for so long by the pharmaceutical industry, right? Which has told us since we were old enough to watch a commercial, right? That we have a pill for every ill. We have a quick fix to your problem. It's not your diet and lifestyle. There's nothing you can do to solve your chronic health condition. You just keep eating burgers and pizza and ice cream and drinking Cokes all day. and let us give you this pill. Just take this pill. That'll help you feel a little bit better. It'll help your arthritis symptoms a little bit. It'll help your gastrointestinal dysfunction, your reflux, or your restless leg syndrome, or your high blood pressure. We've got all these little pills for you. And unfortunately, even when people have a wake-up call and they're like, I don't want the pills, right? I want to get well. I want to heal it. They still tend to bring that mentality to the natural world, and they just think, well, I don't want a pill, I want an herb. You know what I mean? Right. And so it does take a little bit of work to break through that and break down that mentality and help people understand that it's a massive action plan, right? You need a total life change, and don't expect a quick fix, a magic bullet, a miracle pill, or a supplement to cure you. But there are marketers who are exploiting those things to sell you natural products, right? Because they know people get excited. Even me. I mean, I'm susceptible. I'm gullible. Like, people can suck me in and entice me to their products. But I've been doing this long enough that once they suck me in and I poke around a little bit, I'm like, oh man, no, I don't think so. A lot of times.
I think that's the wonderful thing about the diet, the plant-based diet, and lifestyle changes, is that you become very present and much more aware of what's happening in your environment. Rather than turning over your power to someone else, you are turning the power back within. Yeah.
And Sunil, you said something that I find myself saying a lot too. You had this criteria, right, of evaluating the credibility of the source of information. Right. And I have one that's very similar. And so what I try to encourage people in the cancer space, when they're asking me about other influencers or experts, I say, look, has this person healed their own cancer? Yes or no? Have they helped anyone else heal their own cancer? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. And if the answer to both of those is no, then they're not a credible source. They're not a reliable source, right? They're just marketing something for, a variety of reasons, maybe just to boost their reputation, maybe to sell you something. But at the end of the day, like, we need to be listening to people who've healed cancer first and foremost. And so I've got 60 plus interviews on the site now. And then we're adding, I mean, they're just stacking up. We've got a queue, and we roll one out every week, new interviews. So the medical industry does not like the anecdotes, right? They don't like anecdotes. They like to dismiss them as if they're worthless. But every major scientific discovery started with an anecdote. Right? Somebody healed something, right? In a way that no one expected. And then doctors or researchers are like, well, wait a minute, let's look into this. What's going on here? So I love anecdotes because I think we can learn from the experience of others as humans, like the human race. That's just like what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help each other and learn from each other's experience. So I find tremendous value and wisdom and insight in interviewing other people who've healed cancer naturally, either without treatment or after treatment failed them. I mean, this is some of the best interviews I've ever done, not to exclude you, Sunil, but some of the best interviews I've ever done have been with just, regular, non-expert, non-medical people who had cancer and went through that journey and healed themselves. And I mean, the process of self-discovery is just absolutely incredible when you go through it. And they all have wisdom to share.
Yeah, and I think, when we listen to our patients that come from all around the world now, and now we have the internet and stuff like this, is that they might mention something that they've heard or they thought or something, and then it's as an integrative physician, we delve, like Theo and I would delve into the literature, and we find that article, we find a pathway, we find a molecule, and it's like, that's what's in this food. That's why we're eating this, and it's just re-encouraging them to stick with, why, we kind of tend to lose understanding food is medicine and how important community support. These are simple things that people just take for granted. That is really the big game changers. Again, the rest, you said supplements are just targeting certain things which are important, but the rest of the idea of like how important food is right now, there's a big trend, especially with cancer patients with ketogenic diets, and and we're really concerned about that because all the data otherwise shows that it's not helpful. And again, it's almost 28% morbidity, mortality worse than the standard American diet. We know that it increases cancer growth in the animal model 2.5 times, and metastasis to the lungs 10 times more, because the cancer cells can switch its metabolism and use ketones as fuel. So again, trying to biohack the body is never, as I mentioned before last time, it's like you can't fool the laws of nature. Nature will come by and slap you side the head. You need to respect it. You got to respect all these wonderful foods that God has given us, the earth has given us, Mother Nature's given us, and that have what we need to survive and thrive. And so I really appreciate that whole concept of like listening, because the anecdotes, what we find the keys for the next discovery. The anecdotes are what we find to understand what we should be researching more. And then our job is to investigate those things and find which is more potent, pure, safe, and efficacious to deliver those.
Yeah. And, these are principles that have been passed down from generations, right? Food is medicine, right? Patient heal thyself, first do no harm. Like all of these principles of the healing power of food they've been around, they've been here. And the exciting thing is that science has now caught up with ancient wisdom, or is catching up with ancient wisdom. And we're discovering why blueberries boost natural killer cell function and boost your immune system, right? How powerful lemons and garlic are, limonene and allicin, those compounds in lemons and garlic are against cancer. Like, pretty much everything behind your head is like what I ate every day, right? Like, just like it's the original taste the rainbow diet.
And I think one of the best things that we appreciate, aside of a lot of things we appreciate about Chris, but is that when you spend time with us and we're on our retreats, it's like you're not you walk the walk. And one of the things that Theo, Maureen, and everybody in the Food is Medicine group is, we have to walk the walk. And, we don't, a lot of people we've seen, unfortunately, in the integrative holistic conferences, like they go to these health conferences and then they're having the buffet food and, all you can eat steak and shrimp. And you're like, what? Wait, aren't you at a cancer conference? And aren't we talking about inflammation and all these other things? And first thing in the morning, Chris is with his green drink, and it was just like, this is he walks his walk, he talks his talk. And I really appreciate it deep down, because again, a lot of people,
thank you,
I think have sold out. Unfortunately, that again, the temptation is always there. Money makes people make bad decisions. And I think just sticking to the core of like, wow, we can help people. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to Maureen and Theo and everybody in our Food group.
Thank you. I just don't want to get cancer again, man. So
Exactly.
It's totally self-serving.
Don't walk the walk. You know what's going to happen.
Let me just
Let
me just be completely selfish and just tell you, I do it for selfish reasons. Obviously, yes, I have a motivation to walk the walk and do things that I encourage people to do. But look, I'm 41. 41 is pretty young, right? I have at least 40 more years, and I'm planning on really, hopefully 60 more years of life. And that's a long opportunity to get cancer again, right? Any kind.
Right.
And because it only takes cancer about 10 years to develop in the body, sometimes less. So I want to live a long, healthy, disease-free life. I want to be free of heart disease and diabetes and cancer. So the decisions I make every day, and by the way, I'm not into perfection. I have occasional treats and things, and it's fine. I'm so far out that those things don't scare me or worry me. But I eat a diet that's 98% plant-based and 98% super healthy, and a tiny little percentage of it is, recreational.
Sure. Yeah, there's birthdays and there's holidays, and you're stuck in the airport at 2 in the morning.
And it's okay. The problem with the American diet is it's 98% of it's recreational and 2% of it's healthy. Right? It's a complete opposite, and that's what's causing so many problems.
And now that you're a father, right? You have 2 daughters, is that correct?
Yeah, I've got 2 girls. They're 13 and 10. You know,
So I always tell people it's not living for yourself. It's also living for your families, living for future generations. It's setting the example. I mean, I'm sure they're probably super healthy kids just because of your experience. You know, I see so many people now where, you know, their kids were sick, you know, they had all these health problems at a very, very young ages. And now that their parent had cancer, they've gone through this transformation, like the whole family changes, right? So now I got like, if the wife has breast cancer, then the husband like, well, my prostate and my heart disease and all this is all better now because I'm following the same diet. I'm following the same lifestyle. These are lifestyle changes, but we want to live, right? We want to live in style. We don't want to die, you know, unnecessarily or horribly. So it's a lifestyle change, and it's something that everybody has to work on. And I think by being the example as a physician and just as someone who's you know, into health, I think it's attractive because it brings other people saying, "Gosh, he looks good. She looks good. Maureen looks good. Theo looks good. You know, Theo's wife looks good. Everybody that we hang around with look really good and healthy. Even if they have the cancer, still they're still thriving, right? And our goal is to really be those examples because I think people still need more inspiration and assistance.
And also
Always.
by making those changes with your family, you are recreating the DNA for future generations.
That's powerful.
Mm.
And there's a 6,000, I believe is the number, 6,000 new cancer patients diagnosed every day. So, I mean, the need is great, right? It's more people than I can reach than, you know, I mean, there's just a massive need, or massive amount of people that need help, that need inspiration, that need to be educated and just need somebody to just light the path, right? And that's, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm trying to do, just trying to be a light in the darkness,
right,
for people who, you know, like I said, I was there and it was dark. It was dark and it was scary, and I was stumbling around in it, trying to find my way, and with very little light.
yeah.
And but I made it through.
Right now, you've like your light to so many people, and so you know I like to like hold the light out and say, "Look, Chris is the example," and we will then help support that, and we can explain why. We know from a science, you know, physician standpoint, we can say this is why this works. You know, just you don't have to get into all the detail, but if you need to fall back, then this is what we are. We're here to supply that backup evidence because you know you are an example, and that Maureen's an example. You know, Theo's wife's an example. Everybody's an example of how we can thrive with cancer, through cancer, you know, beyond cancer. And I just really, truly appreciate that. I just, you know, every day is just like, wow, I wish we, you know, the circle can get bigger and bigger because we do want this to become the mainstay in how a medicine is practiced.
It will, man. Ripple effect.
Yes.
Yeah, it's well underway. And I like what you said, Chris, about anecdotal. It's the number one argument we get from the science or from doctors is that's anecdotal. And so this is our opportunity to shift that conversation and move the needle and say, okay, well, let's take 10 people, let's run them through 12 weeks that all have breast cancer without any kind of popular treatment, and look at intervention first and see how they respond. And then do another 10 that already maybe had breast cancer, did conventional, had a recurrence, and then are looking at this as an intervention prior to starting a second round of treatment. You know, we start doing those in groups of 10, and all of a sudden it's no longer anecdotal. It's just, let's go solve the problems that are in front of us. And I like how you said being a light, but you know that I've shared that with you before, Chris, is that you were mine and Kim's lighthouse in 2015. You know, we literally were like, we're alone. We're the only people in the world that know that you can actually reverse cancer on camera with diet and lifestyle intervention. But we didn't even have language, vocabulary, nothing. And then that was the same day that I met both Dr. Pai and you, Chris, at a cancer event. I mean, look how it looked like just think about how this thing spins up. And now today it begins to be, instead of, you know, a few people, becomes dozens, which become hundreds, which become thousands. And the butterfly effect. And I talk to so many people that are like, you know, what do I do? And I'm like, square one. I'm like, you're DIY. Like I wish somebody would have sent that to us. What we got was this printout from a PhD who was like, hey, this is how I dealt with my throat cancer. And we were like, well, you know, what do I do with that? You know, like, there was no other evidence. We're just like, you know, Kim and I dismissed it. We walked out laughing, thinking, well, maybe it was because it was juice and it was growing over his throat, or I don't know. We didn't know what to do with it. And, but it did resonate. It's true that it made sense that what you ate mattered. And then there were so many elements of it that we would learn. But yeah, for everyone on this call, I mean, honestly, the impact, the chance to make the difference in the way we practice medicine. I spend a good amount of time now with PhDs and MDs having worthwhile conversations. And in 2015, I was the guy running around saying, blow it up. Just blow up oncology. It's worthless. But pull the pin, right? And now we don't have to. We can actually evolve it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And you sent me that picture that we took when we first met, which I don't remember. I mean, I've told you this already, but I honestly don't remember meeting you the first time at the conference. Cause when I go, I meet a ton of people. Obviously now we're friends and I, love you to death. But yeah, it was amazing. You sent the picture. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's the proof. Like we did meet in San Diego,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you'll ride a motorcycle with me and we'll do it like Dumb and Dumber style, right?
Yes. That's on my Instagram. Everybody watching, you can see me and Theo on a tiny mini bike.
On a 12-inch mini bike.
Yes. Having an 100% heterosexual experience on a tiny mini bike.
Oh, you have to clarify that.
Anyway, I love y'all so much, but I take my health seriously and I have a gym appointment. So I've got to jump off and go.
All right. Thank you very much. Everybody go to sendjevany.net, go to Square One, click on that, join now. Join the launch will be coming soon. Watch the first module for free. Chris will take you through the journey and then we can help take you through the rest. Again, thank you, Chris, for spending the time today and inspiring millions of people to take back their health.
Hey, congrats on the new book.
Thanks. Love y'all. Yeah, you can pre-order it on Amazon. Chris Beat Cancer. Look it up.
All right, everybody, get his book after you read mine. But actually, have them both together.
No, mine first.
They'll be together. All right.
Both.
That's good. Thank you, Chris, everybody. Until next week, best of health.
Beautiful.
All right, everybody. See you next week. Thanks.